Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys football. We're heading out to the ACC as the Clemson Tigers continue to roll and they go on the road to Tallahassee to play the Florida State Seminoles. This is a Florida State team that, again, this is a very good team. You have to feel a little sick to your stomach if you're a Seminoles fan and how that game ended against NC State Saturday night. We said this for a while. This Florida State team is very good. They are just battling some brutal injuries. They have a bye next week, and I'm not saying they can beat Clemson, but I'm saying if you can keep this competitive, you get into that bye week, you get some of these really important guys. I mean, half of these guys are playing, but they're clearly not 100%. You get some of these guys right from a health standpoint, this Florida State team can go on a run to end the season. And again, it's looking like maybe not an ACC title year for Florida State, but this is a team that can still win 8 games and still kind of get some momentum as you kind of continue to try to build this program. And this is going to tell us a lot about what Mike Norvell is as a coach at Florida State. It's all fun and games when you're going 4-0, but when adversity hits, how well can you get this locker room to rally and play some good football down the stretch when some of your goals that started the season aren't necessarily in front of you? Before we get into it, though, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support you guys have shown the channel, both the Florida State fans and the Clemson fans. You guys have been awesome. And just everyone watching, the support you guys have shown really does mean a lot. We've had some serious growth to the channel. We love talking ball with you guys in the comment section. So if you like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let us know in the comments how you think this game plays out. I have a pick for this game. It's going to be a good one. I'm definitely going to have eyeballs on it, and I'm very excited to get into this game. I want to start with the Clemson Tigers just because this is a Clemson team that if they continue to find their form on offense, I don't think a team in the ACC is beating them. And you're going to tell me they're only 4-point favorites on the road at Florida State, a team that is just super banged up, not playing their best football. I mean, I really like Clemson to cover the 4 points. It's opened at 6.5, and it's betted down to 4. This is a really good play, I think, for Clemson. This is a team that we haven't been very comfortable taking Clemson to cover points just because the offense has struggled. But you look at what DJ's done, specifically the last couple of weeks. I mean, on the season, 64 completion percentage, 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's also looking like a little bit more of a weapon running the ball. He lost some weight, 311 yards on the ground, averaging almost 5 yards per carry. This offense is starting to find its rhythm. You're starting to see some playmakers on the outside emerge. That was one of the biggest question marks. That was such a weak point for Clemson last year. The offensive line and the playmakers on the outside. I mean, obviously Justin Ross last year just simply was not himself with all those injuries. He was such a special player, and obviously just very sad to see kind of the injuries catch up to him. But this year, you look at some of the playmakers. Antonio Williams has been extremely impressive. Bo Collins, Joseph Nagata, a guy that we've been banging the table for the last couple of years. He's starting to find his form a little bit. And then you have some really good tight ends. Jake Bringstool, Davis Allen. This Clemson offense is starting to find its stride. And if this Clemson defense is continuing to get healthy, this is good. I don't see a team in the ACC really competing with Clemson. Florida State was one of those teams. But again, you look at the injuries. I want to start on the offensive side of the ball with Florida State. They get Robert Scott back, which was massive. You look at Wake Forest, and Wake Forest doesn't nearly have the edge rushers that Clemson does. And those tackles just really weren't ready for ACC football. You get Robert Scott back. That helps. But again, on the offensive side of the football, Jordan Travis, we've been saying this. This Florida State team goes as far as Jordan Travis can take it. He was been very good, but against NC State, which is a very good defense, in fairness, he was not himself. Obviously, that interception at the end of the game, inexcusable way to kind of close it out. You could argue that maybe the play call was not the right one, but how much stock you put in, how much trust are you going to put into your kickers, 3 of 9 against FBS teams to kick a game-winning field goal? I understand the thinking, the thought process to go out and just try to win the game with your offense. You just can't have an interception there. The worst possible scenario is an incompletion, and that just didn't happen. As good as these wide receivers have been, they were not very good against NC State. Johnny Wilson, a guy that really has provided a massive spark to this Florida State team, had a couple of drops, and that's why he didn't really pan out at Arizona State. And from reading what Florida State beat writers have said, there's been practices where he just can't catch anything. And this is a guy that if he's catching footballs consistently, he's one of the best receivers in the ACC with how fast he is and how big he is. And the body control that he has going up for footballs is next level. You just have to be able to catch the football, especially if you're going to be a 6'7" target. That it kind of relies on your ability to catch those combative catches, those contested catches. On the defensive side of the ball, that's really where the injuries are piling up for Florida State. Jared Verse, a guy that potentially has game-wrecking ability. He's a guy that's a first-round draft pick on our board after only 6 weeks of playing FBS teams. He's been banged up. Fabian Lovett's been banged up. You've had some guys in the secondary banged up. This is a Florida State team that can be so special, but they really need to get their guys right, and the depth, quite frankly, is not there. You have some guys coming in that just aren't really ready to play ACC football. And so this Florida State team, I don't think will beat Clemson. You get into the bye week, you get some guys healthy, and this is a Florida State team that we probably can make some money on down the stretch, assuming they get some of these guys back after the bye week, fully back. You have some guys playing, but they're playing through injuries. You can tell they're playing through injuries. I mean, there were multiple injury timeouts for Florida State against NC State. These guys aren't healthy. They just aren't. But this Florida State team, when they get these guys back, it's a very, very good team. The Clemson Tigers on defense, they're starting to get healthy, and they've been able to kind of weather the storm. The secondary is the big question. I mean, you have some guys that are just really struggling in the back end. And if Clemson gets some of those guys back, I think this Clemson defense is very, very complete. There's only so much this pass rush can do. But you look at that Wake Forest game, the one time that defense really got beat, Wake Forest was just throwing it up to guys like A.T. Perry and asking them to make plays. And it was either wide receivers are coming down to football or Clemson players are tackling them and getting pass interference calls. Clemson's getting Brian Brazee back, I think, after the kidney disease that he had. Xavier Thomas only played, I think, 8 snaps all of last game, 2 sacks, and 2 quarterback hurries. This is a guy that you look at how loaded this defensive line is. I'm going to miss some names here, but I'm going to do my best. On the inside, Trey Williams, Tyler Davis, Brian Brazee on the outside, KJ Henry, who's been an absolute freak, Xavier Thomas, and then Miles Murphy, I think, is one of the best players in college football. This is one of the best defensive lines we've seen, probably rivaling Georgia's from last year. And this Clemson team, we knew their defense would be good. Teams are not even averaging over 2.1 yards per carry against this Clemson team. They're turning the ball over on average twice per game. This is a legit Clemson defense with an offense that's, again, finding its stride. DJU and those wide receivers are increasingly getting some more chemistry. They're running the football really well with Phil Maffa and Will Shipley. Will Shipley averaging almost 6 yards per carry. Phil Maffa had a strong game against BC. It's really hard to argue that any team that Clemson's playing should be within a touchdown of them. It's just the talent, the way this Clemson team is coming together, they're just too good. And if this offense continues to kind of figure it out and they continue to get some guys back on the defense side of the ball, you look at the rest of their schedule after they get through Wake Forest, NC State, and if they get through Florida State, there's not many teams in the ACC are saying, oh, yeah, that they can get them. This is probably their last biggest test. You're going on the road to Tallahassee against a very talented Florida State team that we've seen play some really good football at times. Clemson, I think, covers the 4 points. I think they get it done by probably over a touchdown here. I'd be comfortable taking this all the way up to 6.5. I honestly got what we got is at 6.5. When it opened at 6.5, that's what we got it as. It's been bet down. I feel still comfortable with 6.5, but again, if you're listening to this and you can get 4.5, get some 4.5. I think Clemson rolls in this game, and this isn't even a knock on Florida State. I just think this Florida State team needs to get healthy, but right now I don't really see them keeping it that close with a Clemson team that is starting to find a stride on the offense side of football. You know what they have on the defense. I think Clemson rolls in this on the road, and they're probably looking like they're going undefeated and winning an ACC title here. Excuse me. That'll do it for the review. Again, we appreciate all the support. If you guys do like the content, again, consider subscribing. It does mean a lot to the fellas. It helps the fellas out a lot, and we will talk to you guys later. Peace.